You just earned a $500 bonus. Your neighbor found a $500 bill on the street. Who do you think will be happier? The answer might surprise you, and it reveals something deeply unsettling about how your brain handles money. Today, we're exploring the psychology of money and why even brilliant people make financially disastrous decisions. Forget everything you learned in economics class. Humans aren't rational agents optimizing for profit. We're emotional creatures driven by invisible psychological forces we don't even recognize. The research is shocking, and it fundamentally changes how you should think about your finances. In the next 10 minutes, you'll discover Nobel Prize-winning research that explains your worst financial moments and learn exactly how to overcome these mental traps. Stick around. In 1979, two Israeli psychologists named Daniel Kahneman and Amos Tversky conducted research that would eventually win a Nobel Prize. They discovered something that contradicted everything economists believed about human decision-making. Their finding was deceptively simple but explosively important. The pain of losing $100 is psychologically twice as powerful as the joy of gaining $100. Think about that for a moment. It means your brain isn't wired to maximize gains. It's wired to minimize losses. This isn't a character flaw or a personality quirk. It's hardwired into your neurobiology. Kahneman called this concept prospect theory, and it exploded the myth that humans are rational economic agents making logical decisions. This asymmetry affects everything you do with money. When you see an investment opportunity, your brain doesn't calculate expected returns objectively. Instead, it obsesses over what you might lose. It's like your psychological immune system is constantly scanning for threats, making you hypervigilant about downside risk while being relatively indifferent to upside potential. Here's where it gets really interesting. This loss aversion bias explains why people hold on to losing stocks, refusing to sell them. It also explains why people avoid investing altogether, even when the math clearly shows they should. Your brain would rather be safe and poor than take a risk, even a rational one. That's the power of loss aversion. Imagine this scenario. A researcher hands you a coffee mug, just a regular mug, worth about $5. The experimenter then asks, how much would you need to be paid to sell this mug? Most people demand around $10 to $15. But here's the kicker. People who were never given the mug said they'd pay only $5 to $7 for it. The act of ownership literally doubled its value in people's minds. Richard Thaler, another economist who won major accolades for his work, called this the endowment effect. It's the psychological phenomenon where people value things they own two to 3 times more than identical things they don't own. Your brain treats ownership as sacred. Once something is yours, it becomes psychologically fused to your identity. This explains so much about why people make terrible financial decisions. You own a house you overpaid for, but you can't sell it because you've anchored its value to your emotional attachment. You own stocks because your father owned them, not because they're good investments. You keep clothes in your closet you haven't worn in years because throwing them away feels like losing something precious. The endowment effect is particularly dangerous when combined with loss aversion. Not only do you value what you own more, but losing what you own feels twice as painful. This combination creates a psychological prison. You become locked into your current possessions and investments, unable to make rational trades that would actually improve your financial situation. Your mind becomes your wallet's jailer. Here's something that will genuinely unsettle you. Your financial destiny might have been decided long before you earned your first paycheck. Behavioral finance researcher Brad Klontz discovered something shocking. Unconscious beliefs about money formed in childhood, what he calls money scripts, predict financial behavior with startling accuracy throughout your entire adult life. Klontz's research found that children who heard phrases like, money is the root of all evil, or rich people are greedy, earned significantly less as adults. It wasn't because they lacked ability or education. It was because their childhood conditioning created unconscious blocks against financial success. They literally sabotage themselves without knowing why. Think about your own childhood. What did your parents say about money? Did they treat it as something shameful, something sacred, something that always slips away? Those beliefs didn't just disappear when you turned 18. They're still running in the background of your mind like invisible software, shaping every financial decision you make. The fascinating part is that these money scripts are completely unconscious. You might genuinely believe you're rational about finances while your inherited beliefs sabotage you. Someone whose parents struggled financially might earn millions, but constantly feel anxiety about poverty. Someone whose parents hoarded money might spend recklessly to prove they're different. The script writes the behavior, even when you're not watching. Here's a question for you. You receive a tax refund of $1,200. You also receive a $1,200 salary bonus. Which will you spend more freely? If you said they're the same because they're both $1,200, you're thinking like a rational economist. But Richard Thaler's research on mental accounting proves your brain categorizes these as completely different piles of money. Thaler's studies showed that people treat money completely differently depending on its source. Tax refund money is spent on entertainment and luxury items. Salary money is allocated to bills and necessities. Money found accidentally is blown on frivolous purchases. Money earned through hard work is carefully rationed. Economically, this makes no sense whatsoever. But psychologically, it's perfectly logical. Your brain creates mental buckets for different types of money, and each bucket has different rules. This is mental accounting, and it costs you thousands of dollars per year. You treat a tax refund as free money that doesn't count against your real income, so you squander it. But that money is exactly as valuable as money you earn through work. Your mental categories are completely arbitrary, yet they control your spending. The implications are staggering. If you inherit money, you might spend it differently than earned income. If you earn money through a side hustle versus your main job, you might allocate it differently. If you receive a bonus versus salary, your brain treats it as essentially free. These mental accounting systems are so powerful that they override rational economic calculation. Your categories become your destiny. Knowing you have these biases doesn't magically eliminate them, but awareness is the first step. Here's exactly what you need to do. First, acknowledge your loss aversion. When you're avoiding an investment because you might lose money, stop and ask, is this decision based on realistic risk or my fear of loss? Write down the actual probabilities. Let math override emotion. Second, combat the endowment effect. Before you keep something or refuse to sell something, imagine you didn't already own it. Would you buy it today at its current market price? If the answer is no, you're a victim of the endowment effect. This mental flip, the fresh eyes test, helps you see your possessions objectively. Use it for clothes, investments, cars, and real estate. Third, excavate your money scripts. Take 30 minutes and write down what your parents said about money. What beliefs did you inherit? Once you identify these unconscious scripts, you can actively choose to reject or reshape them. You're not bound by your childhood, but you must first see the chains before you can break them. Finally, collapse your mental accounts. All money is money, whether it's a tax refund, salary, or inheritance. Treat it with the same intentional decision-making process. Create a single financial plan that treats every dollar equally. Don't let the source of money determine how you use it. Let your values and goals determine it instead. That's how you reclaim rational control. You are not irrational about money because you're stupid. You're irrational because your brain evolved to survive, not to maximize returns on investment portfolios. Understanding that changes everything. The psychology of money isn't a weakness to be ashamed of. It's a feature of human neurobiology you can now work with instead of against. The brilliant minds who discovered these principles, Kahneman, Tversky, Thaler, and Klontz, didn't just win prizes. They gave us a map of our own minds. Now you know why smart people make dumb money choices. More importantly, you know how to stop. If you found this fascinating, please subscribe for weekly psychology insights that will change how you understand yourself and others. Hit the notification bell so you don't miss a single episode. What money script did you inherit from your family? Drop a comment below. I read every single one. Thank you for watching.